couple of weeks ago, the most expensive car I've ever owned, my 1,000 horsepower Supra, was crashed. But what if I told you it might not have been Jimmy Oaks' fault, and it might have actually been a good thing that it happened? Confused? You're not going to be. Let's get into it. What is up, guys? I'm back on the channel after a couple of weeks off. I had a beautiful baby boy called Roman, and he's doing absolutely amazing. It's been amazing to get to know him, and that time has also given me some time to put some perspective on the things that have happened this year. We've had massive successes in so many areas, like we made a film with Sung Kang from Fast and the Furious. We went all over the world. We did LZ World Tours in New Zealand. We did them in the UK. We even did 2 events in 1 weekend. Everything we hit the mark on, and I'm so proud of the team for that. However, there was one failure. And that is the thing I have to address in this video, which is my Drift Masters Toyota Supra. Now, as you know, I've come back to work after a couple of weeks, and that car is absolutely destroyed after the LZ World Tour. And the perspective that I've gained over those couple of weeks, well, it all centers around the failure of me driving in Drift Masters and what our next decisions are. On most YouTube videos and most YouTubers, they'll tell you what they're going to do when they've decided it. In this video, I'm putting you on the ground level. I want you guys to help me with our future plans here at Drift Games. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to give you guys some perspective. Now, some of you hardcore fans will know the whole story of the Supra, but maybe not every single detail behind the scenes, and that's what this video is all about, getting everybody up to speed before we make some big decisions. As most of you are aware, I own a 1,000 horsepower, 2JZ powered Toyota Supra, which is fully carbon Kevlar and the best of the best. However, since I bought that car, it hasn't been a smooth road. In order to give you new subscribers a bit of perspective, we're going to have to go back to the start of when I bought the car and why I bought the car. So a couple of years ago, we had a massive fire in the Drift Games HQ. We called it the studios at the time, and in one night, every single car I owned was burnt to a crisp. That's 11 cars gone. And when the insurance company came to value those cars, well, of course, they didn't give us full value on everything they were worth to us in terms of time, energy, and parts, but we did get something. So what I decided to do, I took my full Drift Pro Corvette, which I absolutely loved. I took my Street Supra, and I took my Lamborghini 2JZ powered drift car, and took all the money from those things and put them into this dream car, which is a fully built Pro Toyota Supra. Now, I saw this car in Spain at a Drift Masters event. I was a commentator at the time. I wasn't a professional driver, and over the last 8 years, I've probably done 1 or 2 pro events every year. But just to make myself feel better, and the fact that I loved the new Supra so much and DBM had built an absolute masterpiece, I decided to put all that money together and buy this car. Now, at that point, there was never a plan to do Drift Masters or any professional drifting. I just wanted a cool drift car. So that's what I did. I bought the car, I went and tested it on an airfield in Germany, and she was an absolute beast. But from the moment I started driving that car, I knew it wasn't a conventional drift car. It didn't handle or feel as comfortable as an S-Body or a E-Series BMW. It was just a little bit odd, but I knew no different. I'd never driven a 1,000 horsepower car before, so I was just kind of learning it. I did a load of different demos and demonstrations in the car, and I absolutely loved every minute behind the wheel because it gave me such a rush. And also, I think drifting loses this a lot. Looking at it from the outside, I thought it was the coolest looking drift car in the world. So as time progressed, we had a Drift Masters team of Ryusei Akiba and Connor Falvey, and as the time went on, I said, you know what, I'm not getting any younger. I wonder, could I go and do Drift Masters? I'd spent the last 15 years building European drifting, different events, and promoting drivers and all that kind of good stuff. And I'm not getting any younger, so I said, hey, wouldn't it be amazing if I went and took this Supra to Drift Masters? Seemed pretty simple at the time. However, that's when the issues started to occur, because when I would use this car in competition, let's say national competition, it was extremely tricky to drive, even on tracks that I knew and I was aware that I could do them in any other car. So we started working with the Supra to try and make it a more, I suppose, easier car to drive. And that, well, that's been the problem for the last year. So we committed to Drift Masters, we went there. And as far as I can tell from looking through my notes here, we had some ups and we had some downs. Now, we did not prepare correctly for Drift Masters in 2025. In fact, 5 weeks before the start of the season, when I really wanted to do the most of my practice, I got diagnosed with cancer. So I lost a couple of weeks there. And before we went to Drift Masters in the Supra, I'd only actually done 6 laps on the tires that we were going to be using in the championship. And the car still felt okay, but not great. In the pits in Spain, Jack Shannon came over, threw an alignment on the car, we threw some anti-roll bars at it, and by some miracle, and I think probably by some luck, I actually qualified at my first event. So we were all feeling like, this is going to work, this is going to be great. The emotions were high, and we were ready for the season. And that's when things started to turn. because as I went through the different rounds in the competition, we learned that the Supra, well, we kept muting the car. And what that means is that the suspension on that car would move a lot under braking and acceleration, meaning the car was sort of kind of always out of control. And we ended up kind of turning the suspension off. We hardened everything up, which worked really well on flat tracks like Poland and Germany. But when you got to Mondello, tracks that you do know, and Finland, every time you hit a bump, the car would wildly go out of control. And every time I drove that car this year, it just got more and more difficult. I never felt like I wanted to get in the car and compete to the best of my ability because, well, I was developing a car and my driving in a new environment at the same time. It was completely overwhelming. And also, it was very expensive. Every time you make a mistake and crash, it would cost you tens of thousands of euro. And as far as the season went on, I felt like drifting to me in that car had become more pressure than enjoyment. And I'd started from drifting as just a fun hobby. Now it was so serious. You had all these people relying on you in the pits, you had all the sponsors, everybody was watching. And obviously when you don't do so good, people start to be quite negative online too, so your confidence starts to go down. By the midpoint of the season, my confidence was at an all-time low when I got 2 zeros in Mondello Park. Now I was unlucky with some weather and stuff, but realistically on my home track, not even getting a point on the board, I pretty much gave up on the Supra. So we decided to build a low-brain V8 car and took that for another couple of rounds. It did handle much more predictably than the Supra, but it just didn't have the power. And I mean, I'm talking almost 100,000 euro in difference of parts from one car to the other, and you could feel it. In Riga, the car just didn't have the go, and when we went to Germany, the low brain eventually just gave up and started overheating. So we were back in the Supra for the last couple of rounds. Did qualify in Germany again, I think a little bit by luck, but no point in the season did I feel comfortable in the car. And it could be quite demoralizing because my teammate is developing himself incredibly as a driver, but I'm also doing 2 times the work. I'm incredibly not talented like Connor Falvey, but I also have to develop myself and the car at the same time, which is almost like putting a weighted backpack on. So at the end of the season, I couldn't make the last round of the LZ World Tour, and we decided to give the Supra to Jimmy Oakes. And Jimmy crashed the car. And in hindsight, I think I know exactly why he did. If I was driving the car with the same setup that Jimmy had in the LZ World Tour, I would have been in those tire bales as well, which is why I don't blame Jimmy at all for that crash. So here we are at the end of the season, and I'm a massive amount of money into the car. I didn't have a successful season at Drift Masters, and we've got some decisions to make. Do I just call it quits on the Supra and build another car? Which seems on paper like the right thing to do, but with so much money invested in the Supra, I don't really have the budget to build another car at this point. I'm pot committed in that car. For some of you, money is a weird thing when it comes to drifting. We have it and we spend it, but realistically, this is not a very sensible way to spend money. In the same amount of money I've spent on the Supra, I could have bought an R34 GTR, R33 GTR, R32 GTR, an S15, S14, S13 and S12. That is how much is in that one car, and right now it's an absolute ribbons and bits worth none of that. So it is a big decision whether we go back at the car and try and make it better and go back to Drift Masters, or we just call it quits. But the perspective I talked about at the start of this video is very much about the Drift Games ethos of never giving up. And having a baby, I don't want to have to explain to him in a couple of years that I had one hurdle with this and I just gave up straight away. So we're not giving up. Whether we do Drift Masters or not next year, one thing that does need to be figured out is why this Supra that I spent so much money on and has all the right bits just doesn't feel good to drive. So in order to figure that out, I decided to take it to the one person that's done this before, and I mean made really, really bad cars work really well. I might be the only person that can figure out the fundamental flaw with this car. Before we show you who the Supra doctor is, we've got a little bit of housekeeping to do. And one of those things is we've got to find a winner for our merch giveaway for the amazing Strom custom wheel, coffee table, camshaft contraption. So here it is live in the video. We are going to pick a winner and we're going to see who it is. Come on, somebody. It is Daniel Walsh. Daniel Walsh, you have won the AZ1 custom coffee table, and we have a ton more prizes that we gave away in our mystery box. I'm going to put them on the screen here, so you don't have to listen to 28 minutes of live draws. Congratulations to everybody who won. You've all been emailed and you've all been made aware that you're a winner. And thank you guys for supporting all of our merch. We've got big drops coming, but right now we got the biggest sale in the history of the brand, up to 50% off, I think absolutely almost everything. There's very limited stock left, so get on to driftgames.life now, grab yourself a bargain before we drop a new range very soon. All right, back to the video. So we're here at Group D in County Cork, and if you guys know, the man behind Group D is Darren McNamara. He's built amazing machinery over the years, like the Audi Quattro and his insane S13. But he's also been really good at making unconventional cars very conventional, especially back in Formula D when he drove his Saturn Sky. It was factory back car, but very weird to drive, and he made it a championship contender. So he's a wizard when it comes to suspension, setup and balance of a car. And what I've done is drop the car down to him a few weeks ago after the LZ World Tour to basically get his analysis, fresh eyes on the car, and see, is it me? Is it the car? Is there something weird with it? And today we're going to find out what he's found out about the Supra over the last couple of weeks. Hello, Darren.
Hello, Dave.
It has been a while.
Welcome back.
We're back to Group D. This is the last time we were here. We were at the S15 with the 3SG Plus T. Rest in peace to that car. And then before that we had the Corvette when Darren basically made the wildest Corvette body kit of all time.
Rest in peace also.
Which is also rest in peace. Jesus, it's actually a bad omen on both those cars. So
let's hope
this one survives a little bit better. So for the last couple of weeks Darren has had the Supra, and you told me on the phone a little bit, like you found out quite a bit about the car. We're going to get to that in a minute, but as we always do when we come to Darren's, I want to go look at the other fancy stuff you guys have got going on at the moment, because they don't do conventional builds here at Group D. It's usually something a bit unusual. Tell us about this BMW. What, this looks very nice and fancy.
Yeah, brand new customer car, 2J obviously, 2J everything. E46 4-door, which is
unusual.
Unusual, but I think it's worked out really, really good. It's got the Pandem style wide arch in it. Set of works on it now which really make it pop.
That engine bay is very, very nice.
It's very nice. It's nearly finished. Fully done in-house, obviously, everything, engine, the whole lot. We've all new sort of parts, so you've got our new little infill we're working on here for the timing belt. Rubber issues.
I had that issue this year, yeah. This year I lost a head on my 2J because there was actually a hole. I'm not even saying it was about the size of the logo there, and a tiny bit of rubber went in.
Yeah.
And just bam, it slipped the timing. So it's actually a very handy upgrade.
That's basically what, that's most of what we do nearly these days is
find a solution to the problem.
We'll fix it.
Because you come from a competitive drift background and you build competitive drift cars, that you're finding, I would say, weird issues that people seem to live with forever, and you're going, we don't need to live with them anymore, we can just make a solution for that.
Yeah, we just try and fix things, basically. It's our job, it's a garage, we fix things.
There's a big thing to fix over here, but we'll get to that in a minute. This is your S13, which is rebuilt again.
Yeah, it's stripped again. Basically we had an issue with the engine, so we had a crack in the block, which we actually ran it all of, it's 2 years ago now, with the crack block all year. It was on a water jacket, so it's not that big of a deal, but it's getting a new engine now, but it's getting 2 turbos, which are going to be in the back.
If you want to look in here, there's 2 turbos in the back seat of the car is where they're going to be. So that's quite conventional, that's where they usually are. Yeah. This car
has been total convention all the way.
Yeah, this car is, I would say, you're turning everything up to max. So this is, everyone knows S13s work really well for drifting and they're great and everything, but you're always trying with this car to push the boundaries. So this is almost like a development car.
This car is,
and whatever gets learned on this, you can then bring it back to other things that you do. So
100%.
I'm always looking forward to it. I know whenever it's finished, it'll look bananas as it always does. Yeah. And then we have a very nice Corolla here, which I spotted over your shoulder, which you guys are known, that's where it started with Group D, is A86s and Corollas, and this one is absolutely...
One time it was all we did was Corollas one time, many years ago.
I have never even seen this headlight conversion before.
Yeah, it's JDM, yeah. So we're going to actually, I'll show you.
So what's powering this A86? It is an SR20.
Yeah, 2.2.
But it's on ITBs.
2.2 Neo VVL head, M5 ITBs, I think. Dry sumped. Should be really nice, yeah.
What I was going to say is, I think we figured out a lot of different things with this car over a year and a half, and some things we figured out nothing of. And I think we've been having a conversation about maybe there was a lot of changes made to the car independently of each other, and then probably one big problem. So let's have a look at the Supra and see. And I'm also going to put a disclaimer here of saying, I do think anyone that's driven the car that has crashed it, including myself, it's not a real reflection of driver ability. It's a weird car, like a weird car in general, and you've been basically digging into it to see what it's like.
Yeah, we've dug into it, we've had a good look at it, struggling a little bit to see where it's gone. It does look like there's been a load of hands on it. To me, it needs to start from scratch again. It's gone a certain way. It looks like it's gone away to remove loads of grip, which is understandable. Yeah. You have to do this with 285 Velinos. You just have too much mechanical grip anyway. But I think it's gone so far that it's probably numb, that you just can't feel a thing that's going on.
So to give you guys an insight, which we wouldn't have talked about in the videos, is that I've always felt the balance of the car, if I was to call it balance, was unpredictable. So in order to make the car more drivable, let's say I was trying to qualify in Drift Masters, we actually tried to take the unpredictability out of the car by removing the suspension. So we've just hardened the front, hardened the rear, made everything solid. So basically if it doesn't move, it can't change, and it would make something more predictable. So when I qualified in Germany or doing laps in Poland, when the tracks are flat, the no suspension could just about get you around and you wouldn't have any surprises. When you get to a track like Finland or Ireland, you need suspension because you're coming over bumps and crests, and the car will be super twitchy because it had no suspension. So we were almost afraid of making any more adjustments to it to make it worse to drive. But I think that's a fundamental problem. And you might, I said it at the start of the video, why Jimmy Oakes maybe has crashed the car, or anybody has crashed the car, is because when Jimmy came along, he went off the very sticky tire onto the Accelera 651, which is a practice day tire. Like, it's a really good tire for lower horsepower cars. But on this particular car, naturally, if you're going to a tire that has a lot less grip, you go, oh, we'll soften the rear suspension, we'll disconnect the anti-roll bar, we'll make everything super towed in. And if I was there, I would have said, that's going to make it faster, but it's going to make it jump up and down and do all sorts of crazy stuff, which I wasn't able to drive it with, which essentially meant that when Jimmy went into that corner, cars moving around all over the place, and I can see how that would happen. And it would have happened similarly to me, because I've driven the car like that, and it is just holding on. So I definitely don't think it was Jimmy's fault that it happened. I definitely think it's the car. But then alignment is one area. You were talking to me a little bit on the phone about balance, and that's something that we never really talk about on the channel, is balance. Because if you have a Silvia or you have a BMW like this, someone's figured all that out like 10, 15 years ago, and you just kind of build that. There's only two cars we can reference, which is Peter Wiańczek's Supra and Freddie Asbo's Supra, because they're the only two guys doing well in Supras. Also happen to be two of the best drivers of all time in the world, which is not a fair comparison to me. But it doesn't look like their cars are as unpredictable. So they've obviously figured something out, and you've sort of made inroads of what might be the problem there.
In my opinion, the car is too rear heavy. And then that comes back to, once again, trying to take the grip out of it because it has so much weight over the back wheels. Think of Volkswagen Beetle, you know, there's loads of traction, but you turn the wheel and nothing happens, it just plops straight on. What I would like to do would fundamentally change the balance of the car by, we will have to move the biggest thing we can forward, which isn't you. It's the 2J.
Yeah.
So just about though.
Interestingly enough, so we have, this is what I think is interesting about it, is that your brain says, every Silvia, every BMW, even this one, you're moving the engine as far back to the bulkhead as possible because you have a light rear end on the car and you're moving the weight back for handling.
Yeah.
When you have a rear heavy car and you move the engine back, this is just my layman's way of thinking of it, you're actually making it a mid-engine car because like a supercar or a Lamborghini, the front wheels have very little weight on it, everything is behind it, which is great for traction, great for grip, but you get no feel on the front of the car. The front of the car is almost lifting up and doing nothing, and all we would have weight on the front of this car is an intercooler.
Well, there is quite a lot of weight in the front. It is still...
But we put, if you see here, we put this weight bar, which is now, thanks Jim, in absolute shit, but we put this weight bar on the front of the car, and I also saw Yves Meyer, Peter Wiańczek, they had all these gym weights on the front of the car, which basically...
It's a visual mod, like from seeing what people have done.
When you see it, I can see it from the outside going, that's definitely something to do with balance, because I've never seen a Silvia with gym weights on the front of it. I've never seen anything like that.
Now you'd be surprised how little this does, even though it's quite a lump. It's probably whatever 20 kilos or something on the front of it, but once you put the car on the scales, it's a real misconception of, oh, we'll move this back and we'll move the rad back and everything, and then after all your work you've added like 1.5% rear weight. You're like, what the hell, like,
a lot of work,
worthless, you know. So yes, it's a band-aid and it might be needed, of course, but it's a visual thing, and some people are doing that. Let's try that, you know. It's kind of like, let's try it because someone is successful with it. It's, you know,
for sure,
racing 101, someone is using it, let's try it. What we can do with the engine is we can change the balance of the car without changing the overall weight of the car. So we're not adding weight, we're keeping the weight where it is, which is about 1,320 kilos with you in the car. And
quite a bit of that.
And it's heading for Christmas too. So
I know, it could be worse next year. So the plan is to move the engine, and then on the suspension front, we have sort of a hodgepodge of coilovers on this car from BC Racing, because BC Racing are using this very much as a development car. So we're using different springs and different things, and a lot of that has kind of been random as well. I mean, just to put in perspective, the alignment on the front of the car is from Jack Shanahan, the spring rate on the front is from Adam LZ, the rear of the car is, as far as I know, half Simon Olsen and then half Jack Shanahan. And then the shocks are Brendan Stone and what he's done, and then we also have some other inputs from Torani Ringes from Norway. So like you can imagine how much is going on there.
International effort.
And then imagine after all of those people giving me an input, I just fully hardened the car and just
get a group photo of
everybody.
Yeah.
So the idea with Darren is that Darren is going to jump on board to not only get the balance of the car right, but also to get us to a point where, you know, you're looking at the overall car.
I have to take all responsibility, is what you're saying, from everyone.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So if I'm bad, it's just your problem.
It's just
now.
my fault. Yeah. No,
but the idea of that is that one person can look at everything through. They're taking the whole thing back to basics, and the car itself, fundamentally, DBM have built an amazing car here, and it works perfectly. It's got the power. It's got everything it needs. It's just DBM or anybody has not worked on these Supras in depth. There's no 10 years of development or go ask that guy or go ask this guy. And you guys might ask, well, why don't we just ask Peter and why don't we ask Freddie? Obviously Peter and Freddie spend a lot of time, money and effort to be competitive, and they don't want to hand that competitive advantage away, which is racing at the top level. This is not skidding around in a car park. This is high level. But also Papadopoulos Racing would create themselves their own suspension for the car that is just not relevant to the Wisefab. And
not for sale.
Yeah, and not for sale. And Peter is also in a situation where he's trying to win the championship by having a competitive advantage, but also he's spent so long, and he's also a different driver. The next thing we have to talk about in this video is not only Darren is going to be doing such great things with the car to make it develop, but I need to develop as a driver. And there was one thing that I was given a massive piece of advice by most of the driver grib and Drift Masters, and that was to get a practice car that I actually hated. Alright guys, before we show you our two new practice cars, I'm going to break the fourth wall again and talk to you guys honestly about Drift Masters and the cost of competing at the very top level. Now, we're a 9-person company in Ireland, and we sell hoodies and t-shirts and we do events. We are not Monster Energy or Red Bull or a massive corporation building a team. The reason we wanted to build a team for Drift Masters is because we wanted to be at the top level of the sport. But it's not always as easy as you think. Like, for example, Drift Games are the only team on the grid actually sponsoring another driver, which we have with Connor Falvey. We wanted to take a young and up-and-coming driver, and we're also very good friends with Tomas and the whole family, and bring him to Drift Masters, and that's what we did year one. But when it comes to Drift Masters, a lot of you guys in the comments are saying, well, it would be so much easier to just put a top level driver in the Supra and you'd win everything. And that's not really the reason Drift Games are at Drift Masters. You see, Drift Games is me and Josh and all the boys. And our sponsors sponsor us, not for Drift Masters at all, just for the 52 weeks of content that you guys watch on the channel. Now, Drift Masters makes up about 7 videos of 120 videos that we make a year. And here's the more interesting fact. We actually got more views on pulling a skyline out of a hedge than we did on the entire season of Drift Masters. So it's not like YouTube is paying for this, it's not like the sponsors are paying for this. We just want to do it because we thought it was so cool to have our own team on the grid and use it as a showcase to basically give back to the sport. We wanted to show the behind the scenes, we wanted you guys to see Drift Masters from another angle, and that's why I'm driving a car and Connor's driving a car. We thought me being the kind of person behind drifting for 15 years and let's say not the most experienced would be interesting alongside a driver who is also learning the ropes at 17 years of age. We thought that dynamic would be really cool on camera, and I think it's kind of come across pretty well this year. However, it is super expensive, and to guarantee that you're going to do Drift Masters, you've got to have a ton of budget, and especially when this year we struggled a lot for budget. I was selling cars. I think I sold 9 cars this year just to keep the Drift Masters program going, because as always at Drift Games, if we say we're going to do it, we see it through till the end. Just like when we had Connor Falvey and Ryusuke Akiba on the grid 3 weeks after our entire building burnt down. We always keep our promises, and that is what we're all about at Drift Games, not giving up and doing whatever we say we're going to do. But then sometimes at the end of the year, you've got to discuss, we're going to lose money no matter what happens. If Connor and I went to Drift Masters, won every single round, took every single bit of prize money, we would still lose a huge amount of money. So it's not just about winning, it's about progression and it's about the story. And hopefully you guys enjoy that story too, because we really enjoy making it. Okay, with that said, that might give you a little insight into what Drift Masters is all about. Now it's time to show you 2 new practice cars that have arrived at the yard. So with all of that said, obviously drifting was very competitive, stressful and highly expensive this year. We've decided in the off season that to make Dave a better driver, we're going to need a lot of practice. Now this is my new Z. It's very fancy, very nice, and I will use this for practice, demo driving and passenger rides. but it's a little bit too nice and hard to find parts for if I want to go smashing things up. And Jack Shannon said something to me very important this year. He goes, you want to practice in a car. Practice in a car that isn't too pretty. Live in the uncomfortable, crash it, learn from it. So I needed to find a car or cars that I didn't care too much about. And that's exactly what we found. So these are our two new practice cars. So yes, we have picked up two of the most reliable drift chassis in the world, the beautiful and amazing, well not that beautiful, 350Zs. We have two of them here that we've just picked up. Obviously Sportsland is going to be open very soon for the Winter Bash, which is this weekend, and obviously our next video will show you the track finished. So we needed two cars that could do a ton of laps, and we didn't have to care too much about them aesthetically. These are not pretty cars, these are not cars that we're going to be doing loads of content on, these are just for practice. And why is there two? Well, let me explain to you. They're a little bit different. So this black one we bought both of these cars from our friend Gary Dunn. This one is a high rev, so it's got a little bit more horsepower than the standard one. It also has, in the puddle, brilliant, right in the puddle, Ireland, brilliant. It has a cage. So this is a full comp car cage, plumbed in fire extinguisher, kill switches and all that. This is the car that I will be using for the Irish Drift Series Winter Series, which is starting at the end of the month, and there's 3 rounds. So I'm going to get a lot of competitive practice in this car. I'm also going to be using it for practice with some of the other Drift Masters Pro drivers, including my teammate Connor Falvey. And I'm also going to be using it to chase my good friend Josh, because I've been watching Peter Viantek's videos for the last couple of years, and he has a driver that puts lead runs in front of him so he gets better at chasing. This is Josh's new baby. Lights are broken, so there's light blanks. The kit, horrendous. Probably the worst body kit ever for a 350Z. It's got rattle cans on it, but it has all the essentials. It has some lock mods, it has a handbrake, it has harnesses, it has seats, and it goes all day, which is the most important part. So what we have here is two cars, and we're going to do a lot of practice. You'll see some of this on our social media, maybe not in videos because it's not that interesting drifting around 350Zs, but the idea is that Josh is going to run lead runs, I'm going to run chase runs, and then I'm going to be prepared for the Winter Series where I compete against other top level drivers. And that's my whole plan for the winter, is to do more seat time, more fun, more laughs, lower cost. And these two cars are not about looking pretty, they're not about, we did put Stroms on them, to be fair. We said we wouldn't do anything to them, but they were so horrendous that we put DS05s on this one and DS15s on this one. But they should go okay, get us loads of laps, and in Sportsland we can go all day on 1 tank of fuel, especially if it's a wet day, and get tons of practice in. And that's just the start of how I'm going to become a much better driver for next year. So you've heard the history of the Supra, you've heard the problems we've had, you've heard why it may or may not have been crashed so many times. You've heard Darren give his opinion on what he needs to fix it, and you've seen our two new practice cars. But that's not all. I've got a little bit of summarizing to do for you. So the plan is pretty simple. 2 things we need to achieve. Me being a much better driver, and the Supra being a much better car. So for me, I've got the 350Zs to do a ton of practice. I'm going to do the Irish Drift Series Winter Series. I'm going to be on the simulator a lot more. I'm going to increase my knowledge by talking to Darren and other drivers to try and learn more about suspension. And obviously we've got the winter and spring bashes with the Winter Bash this weekend, and we've got our own track to practice on. So that is quite achievable. On the Supra, we're going to move the engine. We're going to repair all the damage on the car. We're going to try and get a little bit less lag from the turbo. We're going to learn all about the alignment and suspension through Darren when he's got the car balanced. We're going to get rid of all the small little niggly problems that I had all year. And very importantly, we're going to work on the reliability, because I spent about 60% of Drift Masters in the pit with broken pieces. If we get the Supra right, we get Dave right, we bring both to a test early next year, and that could be the magic moment where it all comes together and we can start developing the car to be a very competitive car, whether we do Drift Masters or not. I think this needs to be done either way. So you won't see a lot of this on the camera. The car is off being repaired behind the scenes, and a lot of the practice we do, we'll put them on social media. So if you want to follow Drift Games on Instagram, or myself at David Drift Games on Instagram, we'll be putting up loads of stuff there. But we've got massive projects coming on the channel, builds that we've never done before. So a lot of this will play in the background, and it's kind of boring too, just practicing. But we will get to this point, and you'll be able to see all of the progress over a couple of months to see if it's all worked out. And first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who stayed to the end of this video, because it was really important for us to answer all those questions we had about the Supra and Drift Masters and everything else. And our plan is to go full steam. Will that happen? We don't know, but either way, we're going to need your support. So thanks for watching the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one. And the next one's very special, because we are launching Sportsland, our very own drift track, in the next episode. So we've got to go do that right now. So we'll see you then.